Happy National Canadian Film Day. In honor of Canadian Film Day, I'm going to count down 10 essential Canadian movies. Number 10. Ginger Snaps is a horror film released in the year 2000. It tells the story of two teenage sisters, Ginger, played by Catherine Isabelle, and Bridget, played by Emily Perkins. The two sisters are outcasts in a small suburban town called Bailey Downs. One night, Ginger is savagely attacked by a wild creature. Ginger's wounds miraculously heal, but something's not quite right. Now Bridget must save her sister, and save herself. It's an interesting take on the werewolf subgenre, using the werewolf transformation as a metaphor for puberty. It was directed by Edmonton's John Fawcett and spawned two sequels, Ginger Snaps 2 Unleashed and Ginger Snaps Back. It's a must-see for horror fans. Number 9. Cube is a 1997 sci-fi horror film about 6 different people, each from very different walks of life. They awaken to find themselves trapped inside a room. Once they figure out how to open the door, they find themselves trapped in another room. They soon begin to realize that they're in a giant cube. Each person has a skill, which becomes clear when they must band together to get out. A cop, a math whiz, a building designer, a doctor, an escape master, and a disabled man. Each plays a part as they try to escape. It's an original, tense, claustrophobic film that really relies on the characters and human nature to tell its story. There are 2 sequels, Cube 2 Hypercube and Cube 0. Number 8. My Bloody Valentine is a 1981 slasher film set in Sydney Mines, Nova Scotia. Valentine's Day is coming around and the young people of the small mining town of Valentine's Bluffs are organizing a party. A few decades earlier, an explosion at the mine trapped 6 miners underground. Only one survived, Harry Warden. Warden murdered those he deemed responsible for the mine accident. Now people are being brutally murdered again, and the townsfolk suspect that is the work of Harry Warden. My Bloody Valentine is a great slasher film. Make sure to seek out the unrated version. It has some really great and unique kills. A remake was made in 2009, but it's not nearly as fun as the original. Number 7. The Editor is a 2014 horror comedy. It's actually a parody of Italian giallo films. Ray Ciso was once the greatest editor the world had ever seen, but a horrific accident has left him with 4 wooden fingers, and now he has to resort to editing low-budget, trashy films. The lead actor for one of the films that he's been editing turns up dead, and Ray is the number 1 suspect. Bodies keep piling up, and Ray must clear his name. That only scratches the surface of what's going on in this movie. It was made by the film collective Astron 6 out of Winnipeg. It's funny as hell. Seek it out, you won't be disappointed. Number 6. Pin is a 1988 psychological thriller. Leon is a loner, and his only friend is an anatomy doll from his father's doctor's office named Pin. Leon talks to Pin, and, well, Pin talks back to Leon. After his parents die in a car accident, the doll begins to take over Leon's life, and his sister Ursula's life as well. When Ursula starts hanging around with a new boyfriend Stan, Leon and Pin make a plan to get rid of him. I don't want to say any more about the plot because I think you should really watch it. Pin is a criminally underrated horror film. Directed by Timmins, Ontario native Sandor Stern, this film is an unsettling, intense look at mental illness. It's a high water mark for Canadian horror movies. Number 5. The Void is a great horror film, and it was one of my favorite movies of last year. Deputy Daniel Carter finds a man crawling on the road and rushes him to a local hospital. The hospital is shutting down and is running only on a skeleton crew. One of the nurses is Carter's estranged wife, Allison. Soon the hospital is surrounded by mysterious hooded figures, and strange and violent things begin to happen inside. The practical effects in The Void are amazing, and the monsters are just awesome. The film was written and directed by Stephen Kostanski and Jeremy Gillespie, both of whom are members of Winnipeg's Astron 6, but this wasn't produced under that banner. The Void often gets compared to 80s films, but it's definitely not a throwback. It's one of the best horror films in the past few years. Number 4. Black Christmas is a 1974 slasher film directed by Bob Clark. As the Christmas break begins, a group of sorority sisters begin to receive anonymous, rather perverted phone calls. The girls egg on the caller, but stop when he becomes threatening. Soon, one of the ladies goes missing, and a local 13-year-old girl is murdered, leading the sorority sisters to suspect a serial killer is on the loose. But no one realizes just how near the culprit is. Black Christmas is an important horror film. It's often cited as one of the first slashers, predating Halloween by 2 years. It would also feature some actors that would go on to become famous, like Margot Kidder and Andrea Martin, both playing sorority sisters, John Saxon as a police officer, and Art Hindle. He would go on to be a mainstay in the Canadian film and television industry for the next 40 years. He even had a role in The Void. Number 3. Hardcore Logo is a 1996 faux documentary about the punk band Hardcore Logo. The singer Joe Dick gets the band back together for one last tour in honor of a Canadian punk rock legend, Bucky Hyatt, who was shot. On the way, the band's dark secrets are revealed. Bassist John Oxenberger loses his schizophrenia medication and slowly loses his sanity. Guitarist Billy Talon finds out that by going on tour, he loses his position in the mainstream rock band Jennifer, and with that, he's one shot at stardom. The band stops at Bucky Hyatt's reclusive estate, only to find that he was never shot, and that Joe Dick fabricated the lie in order to get the band back together. Hardcore Logo was directed by Bruce McDonald. Now, he's made many films that could have been on this list, like the 2 other rock and roll films in his rock and roll trilogy, Roadkill and Highway 61, as well as the incredible horror film Pontypool. Hardcore Logo is a great rock and roll film with a hell of an ending. Seek it out, it's a must-see. Number 2. Turbo Kid is a 2015 action-adventure comedy set in the post-apocalyptic future of 1997. The kid, a young solitary scavenger obsessed with comic books, meets a mysterious girl named Apple. The two become quick friends. Despite their efforts to keep to themselves, Zeus, the sadistic, self-proclaimed leader of the wasteland, tears the two apart. Armed with an ancient turbocharged weapon, the kid embarks on an incredible journey to rid the wasteland of evil and save the girl of his dreams. Or maybe she will save him. Turbo Kid is actually a Canadian/New Zealand co-production. This film is bar none one of my favorite movies of all time. It's full of heart, blood, and BMX bikes. Watch it, have fun, and then thank me later. Honorable mention. Before I get to number 1, I would like to mention Tragedy Girls. While it's not technically a Canadian film, it was shot in the US with American money. It was made by 2 great Canadian filmmakers, director Tyler McIntyre and writer Chris Lee Hill. Tragedy Girls is a great modern take on the slasher film. It's fun, funny, full of blood, and it's available right now on demand, so just go watch it. Number 1. Videodrome is a 1983 science fiction body horror film directed by David Cronenberg. And, well, if I'm being honest, this whole list could be Cronenberg films. It was really hard to pick just one. Videodrome tells the story of the president of a trashy TV channel, Max Wren, played by James Woods. He is desperate for new programming to attract viewers. He finds a tape called Videodrome, a TV show dedicated to gratuitous torture and punishment. Max sees a potential hit and broadcasts the show on his channel. However, after his girlfriend, Nikki Brand, played by Deborah Harry, auditions for the show and never returns, Max goes to investigate Videodrome and discovers that graphic violence may not just be as fake as he thought. That synopsis really does not do the film justice. It's full of some great surreal imagery, and it's a real head trip to watch. Hope you enjoyed this National Canadian Film Day special. Now, go watch some Canadian movies.